Hey there, welcome to CodeChef. Today we are going to be discussing the project CSV Data Analyzer, which is from our course Java Projects for Beginners, where we have 10 different Java projects from which beginners can get familiar with Java. So let's begin. So in this particular project, we're going to be building a simple CSV Data Analyzer where we can analyze the CSV which you uploaded. So let's look at the final product. So let me give input file as input.csv, and then as you can see, I can display data info, show basic statistics, and filter through the data based on the user input. So let me give display info for now. Let me give show basic statistics. So I've gotten mean, minimum, and maximum values along with the total number of non-null values. And let me filter the data, and let me give column name as age. And then I want to filter by, let's say I want to see someone who's 27 years old. So you can see I've gotten only Rahul, who is 27 years old, along with the rest of the data. Now coming to the flow of this particular project, our first step will be to upload the CSV file. We have to either give the file name or the file path in case we are running the program locally. And if the file exists, it will be loaded successfully and will display a success message saying file loaded successfully. And if user wants to display data information, we have to iterate through each row and print out each value. And if user wants to see basic statistics, we'll be showing minimum, maximum, and average values. And if the user selects filter data, we need to give users option to give input as to by which column and by which value the user wants to filter. Now in the first subtask of the CSV Data Analyzer project, we are going to be actually loading the CSV file. So let's look at the objectives for this particular subtask. So we have to read the data.csv file, and we're going to use the CSV reader class to open the CSV file, and it's from the open CSV library. And then we're going to store all the column names in another array called headers, in which we will just have the column names and not the data. And the rest all data should be stored in separate array of arrays. Basically it's an array in which each element is another array, and the data type of that array will be string. And we should make sure to implement error handling, and if the file is not readable or it's missing, or if the program encounters any other error, it should be displayed. So we'll be using try and catch blocks, and if it's successful, we will be returning the data to the main function. So we have our expected output over here. Coming to the code, so we are importing the CSV reader class from the open CSV library, and we have rest of our imports over here. Now in the public class CodeChef, we will first be initializing the array of arrays which is of type string, as I told previously, which will be called as data. This is where our entire CSV file will exist. And then we will initialize another array of strings called headers, which will contain the column names. And then now we are creating a scanner object so that we can take input from the user. Now in our load CSV function, here we're going to get an array of arrays as an output, and we will be taking the file path as an input, which is of type string. So first we will have to create another array of arrays which will store all the data from the CSV, and we will call that all data. Now we are going to open a try block. So what is try and catch over here? So this is a way to handle errors in Java. In Python we had try and except, but over here we have try and catch. So basically what Java is going to do is it's going to try the code present in the try block, and if we get an error, that is if we catch an error, it's going to try whatever is present in the catch block. So in the try block over here, we are initializing a file reader object, which is used to actually open the file present at the file path given by the user. So here we are actually opening the file. So we are given the file path over here. Now we are going to initialize a CSV reader object called reader, which is used to actually read CSV files. Over here we opened the file, and here we are reading the CSV file. And after that, now we will be getting all the column names. So as we initialized over here headers, which is an array of strings, we will give headers equal to reader.readNext. So readNext is a function which is present in the reader object or the CSV reader class, which will read the first array in the array of arrays which we had. So in the array of arrays, it's going to look something like this. The first array will have all the column names, and the second array onwards, we will have all the data present under that columns. For example, the first array will be name, age, location, whatever might be the column names. The second array will be the actual data present in the CSV file. So using headers equal to reader.readNext, we are going to make sure that headers contain all the column names. Now, right now reader is reading the column names, and if you give read next again, it's going to go to the next element, which is the actual data. So you can notice over here, so we have one more array of strings called row, in which we will have the actual data or the rows. So basically each row will be an element in the array of arrays. So string row equal to reader.read next. As I told previously, first we read the column names, and next we're going to be reading the actual data. Now we're going to run a while loop to iterate through every row. So while row not equal to null, that is while row is not empty, that is while row exists, we are going to run a for loop. So over here we are actually printing out the data and giving a space so that it's legible. That's why we given an empty space over here. Now considering the first iteration, first we'll print out the first line of the CSV file, and then we're going to move to the next line using this. And then after that we're going to be adding the row which we printed out to the all data array. If you remember, we had created an array of arrays called all data. So we're going to add the row which we printed out in the all data array. Now after that we're going to read on to the next row, that is row equal to reader.read next, because we have read this particular row and added it to the all data array. So we'll be moving on to the next row. And after iterating through every row and printing it out and adding it to the all data array, we're going to print out CSV file loaded successfully, return all data. So here we have our catch block which we will run in case we get any error. We're simply going to print out an error message and return null. Coming to the main function, we're going to print out welcome to CSV Data Analyzer and enter CSV file name. And then over here we're going to take input from user as to give the file path or the file name. And now over here we're going to load the CSV and store it in data by calling the load CSV function. And then over here we're printing out the data, and in case you upload an empty CSV file, that is there is no data present in the CSV file, we are not going to return anything. And now over here we're going to run an infinite loop which will have the menu of the CSV Data Analyzer. So here we have int choice equal to integer.parseInt scanner.nextLine. So what does parseInt mean over here? So if you notice over here, we are taking input as a string from the user. We are not taking input as an integer. For an integer you should give scanner.nextInt, but over here we have given scanner.nextLine, which is basically going to take input as string. And what does parseInt do? So integer is a class present in Java which basically is going to allow you to convert strings into integers. So the particular function parseInt is going to convert the given string into an integer. So we are taking input from user as string, we are converting it into integer using this parseInt value, and we are storing it in choice. And now we have a bunch of if-else conditions as to which function the program should perform based on the user input which we got over here. Let's just run this code once. So let me give file name as data.csv because I'm running this online and not locally. So yeah, you can see we have got CSV file loaded successfully along with the data printed out. Let's just submit this code once. So yeah, we passed both the test cases. Let's move on to the next subtask.